Here is the new project. If you guys want to follow along on everything that happens and gets done on this thing, make sure to subscribe to the channel. So it's a 1997 Moonglow Land Cruiser. It has, I think, 250 or so thousand miles on it, give or take. I'll look at the odometer here in a second. It's got some nice modifications here and there, but it has probably 15 years worth of maintenance that needs to be done. It's leaking every kind of fluid that I can think of, out of every place I can think of. Runs very well. Mechanically, as far as operationally, is in good shape. It does have triple lockers, rear lockers, front lockers, center locker. Tested all of those out. They work flawlessly, engage really quickly. They've obviously been used with the previous owner, and they've had some usage so that they do work. Let's walk through what the current condition is. It has Old Man Emu J springs front and rear. It's got the 315/75/16 Cooper mud terrain tires. They ride pretty well. Surprisingly, I'm not a fan of Cooper tires, but they actually ride pretty well. I drove it from San Antonio back here to Round Rock, Texas, about a 2-hour drive, and they were fine. It does have the caster correction plates in the front, right there, if you can see those. It has the slee blocks to drop the sway bar down to where it is back in alignment with where it was meant to be. It has, let's see if we can look back here, the Old Man Emu shock absorbers, front and rear, that come with the J-spring lift kit. Without armor, I think that lift kit gives you about 4 inches of lift. We do not have, it doesn't look like, the spacers for the rear sway bars. That's not a huge deal. May add those later at some point if we keep this lift kit on here. It is a Texas truck, so if you look at all the regular culprits for spots for rust, there is none. There is no rust on this truck at all. It is actually, except for all the leaks of different fluids, it's in fantastic condition mechanically and as far as the body goes. So that's everything underneath. Let's take a look at what we got up top. Tires are only about a year old. They've got almost all the tread remaining on there. We even have a spare tire with a Land Cruiser wheel on there. It looks like it's painted flat black or something. The wheels on here are from an LX450, if you recognize the difference there. The previous owner also did give me the Land Cruiser wheels along with the old tires that were on there. I'm gonna try to figure out what to do with those. The second row of seats, it's really dirty currently. The entire interior is super dirty. All of this carpet needs to come out, seats needs to come out, everything needs to come out and get a thorough cleaning. Even the headliner is just really gross. All these water spots everywhere. It looks like somebody may have left windows open, sunroof open at some point, who knows. We do have the aftermarket taillights. I'm not a big fan of them, but they look fine. Overall, the body's straight. Doesn't look like it's ever been wrecked. There's a bunch of little stuff. Looks like somebody left something here, tried to open the tailgate, bent this section. There's little dents and things. You know, there's a little dent here, a little crease here. Where else? A little dent here. What else do we have? One of these is misaligned. I'm gonna guess this one, since it's hanging off. Looks like maybe you ran up against the tree or something off-roading. This one's not lined up correctly here. Body panels overall look to be in decent shape. Got another crease right here. The window trim belt moldings are rough, just like they are on all of the Land Cruisers of this age. We'll likely be replacing those. The rear glass, surprisingly, is in good shape. The trim is in good shape too. The rain guards, the drip guards, yeah, they're starting to peel, just like all of these do. We'll have to see what to do about that. Fender flares, the clear coat is starting to peel off. It does have a little ARB bumper on here that is only about a year and a half old, so pretty much new. There is a Badlands Apex 12,000 pound winch on here with the nicer synthetic rope. The previous owner installed it correctly with the blocks on here on both sides to space it out correctly. He put some nice lights on here, nice worn off-road lights. You've got the trim piece for the winch line. You've got the lead here. You've got some shackles on both sides. And this guy looked like he was on his way to build a decent rig. You've got an antenna for radio that's hooked up to nothing. The winch is not even wired up yet. The wires are actually zip tied down there and just hanging there. It's never been used. All of the wireless remote and everything for the winch, they're all sitting in the back of the truck. And that winch is actually a pretty decent one. I'll likely leave it on there and get it hooked up at some point with the correct cabling and relays and everything. We've got an ARB roof rack. It did have a Wilco swing out tire carrier. If I do keep this truck, I'm going to put a proper rear bumper with a swing out on there. So I went ahead and sold off the Wilco tire carrier and the roto packs, the locking mechanism for the roto packs, the high lift jack that was mounted on there. I went ahead and sold those off to some local folks that are going to get some good use out of them. So I was able to recover a few bucks off of those. This is what really confused me. We've got all these little things. I don't know if you can see it. You got a little dent and a rust spot. Little dent, rust spot. Little dent, rust spot. And they're all across this side of the truck. And I looked at them long and hard. The previous owner didn't know what happened because it was like that when he bought it. I'm willing to bet that some kid or adult was not too happy with the owner of this truck at some point and went at it with a BB gun. That's really what it looks like. Yeah, if you can see, it's a little tiny dent, probably chipped the paint off. The rust isn't too bad, it's just surface rust. And this could be easily repaired and sanded down to the metal, primered, and painted. The problem is this paint is just so aged that it would be impossible to match it. I don't know what I'm going to do about that, so we'll get to that at some point. The mechanicals are going to be first. He did rip the rear driver's side front portion of the flare off. I've got it in the back of the truck. May see if we can reattach it. We've got some more dents, a little here. Looks like he went up against a tree or something right there on the driver's door. That isn't actually too bad. It looks worse than it is. That can be popped out pretty easily. Then you've got all of the rubber trim for the fender flares that's dried out, kind of needs to be replaced. Let's take a look under, or actually inside. I'm not sure what's under these seat covers, how bad the factory leather is. We'll pull those off and take a look to get a better view of what's going on. We do have our magical dial, the diff locks. I tested those, they work really well. This truck actually is terrible as it looks inside and outside, and how much it's leaking every kind of fluid. It actually drives really well. I don't want to jinx myself, but so far it really drives well. It just needs, probably 15 grand in maintenance. We're missing a AC vent right there. If anybody that's watching this has one, please drop me a note. I need one to replace that. This truck has more than likely been parked outside. We've got 1 crack, 2 cracks, 3 cracks, 4 cracks, 5 cracks, and 6 cracks in the dash. If you know of a good way to repair these, I'm personally not talented enough to do that kind of work and make it look nice. If you know somebody in Central Texas that does dash repair and does a good job without having to replace this thing, please drop me a note in the comments, let me know. If not, if you do have a gray colored dash that you're willing to part with and sell to me, also drop me a note and let me know. I have no clue what on earth happened here. It almost looks like something was in here for a while and just rubbed and caused abrasion and ruined those portions of the headliner. Your guess is as good as mine. What do you guys think that was from? I really don't know. We've got a brand new Denso radiator that the previous owner had bought, went ahead and gave to me as part of the sale. We're going to be installing that. More of the proper Land Cruiser wheels. There's some weld-on sliders that he gave me. There's that one, there's a piece of that one. I don't know where all the other pieces are. I'm not going to use those. If you want these weld-on sliders, they look like they approximately fit. I don't know if they're made for this truck or not, or if they're universal. If you want them, drop me a note in the comments below. And if you're in Central Texas, I'm in the Austin area, we can figure that out. The previous owner also did me a water pump. That's an ASIN, decent brand. It's not OEM. I may use it. I may get a Toyota one. I'm not sure. And there's a lot of other boxes down here with the parts for the winch and thermostat, some gaskets, other things that the previous owner did not get to do himself. And obviously there's the third row seats just stacked up on top of each other there. There's a lot of work to be done on this thing. Let's take a look under the hood. Before we get under the hood, mileage is 259,000 miles. So it's got the old style metal top radiator. Those are decent radiators, but this thing is not in the greatest shape, and it's got some age on it. I don't know if it's the original one or not, but it's old and it needs to be replaced. The oil cooler up front seems like it's in decent shape. I don't see any leaks there. The AC condenser, all the fans and everything seem like they're in good shape. The AC actually blows really, really cold, just like most of these trucks do when they're in good condition. The cap, and I'm assuming the rotor inside, look like they've been replaced at some point. That looks like a fairly recent cap. The wires, just looking at them without removing anything, look like they're in decent condition. They're still flexible. None of the sheathing is hard, but you know how these things go. If you don't know if it's been replaced, you're probably better off replacing it. The PCV and breather valve hoses are both really, really rock hard, and they need to be replaced. Valve cover gasket, I don't know how well you can see it in the video. There's leakage going on all down there and around. It needs to be replaced. Valve cover gaskets and more than likely all the donuts that go in each of the spark plug valleys need to be replaced. The brake booster and the brake master cylinder look like they've been replaced at some point. They're fairly new, as is the vacuum hose there that goes to the booster and to the intake manifold. Looks very new, so I'm assuming those have been replaced. You've got one of the EGR valves that looks new, the other one that looks old. It does have a check engine code. I haven't run a scanner against it to see what the code is, but I'm assuming it's for an O2 sensor or EGR. The heater control valve looks extremely old. I'm guessing it's original, really brittle. The hoses are rock hard on either side. I'm going to be replacing all of those. If you have looked at enough of these, those are the factory clamps, the little twist clamps. So my guess is these have never been replaced and are probably 260,000 miles old. So those will be getting replaced as well. There is an incorrect battery in here, as is on most Land Cruisers, because people just grab something off the shelf and throw them on. It's a 24F These are supposed to have a 27F, so we'll be replacing that as well. All of our heat shields and everything are in place on the exhaust manifold, which is nice. Oh, there we go. You can see all the leaking from the valve cover along here. There's a lot of leaking going on. We'll be replacing the water pump, which is that guy right there. While we're in there, I'm going to order a fan clutch, replace that as well. It looks pretty old and tired. Might as well if we're going to take it off anyway. There is a lot of coolant leaking out from, let me show you where, right here. So this elbow comes off the cylinder head, goes down to the housing for right behind the water pump, and then this is the thermostat housing. There are O-rings here on that attachment and everything, and when they get old, or if somebody removes it, reinstalls it, doesn't replace the O-rings, they start leaking. There you go. You can see the little puddle of fluid there, right there. It's not leaking a lot, but it is dripping out while you're driving. I didn't really lose a noticeable amount of coolant driving it 2 hours from San Antonio back up to Round Rock, but definitely is leaking. So we're going to pull this entire guy off, replace the gaskets and the O-rings for that. Going to remove the thermostat housing, gaskets, thermostat, replace there. The exhaust manifold seems like it's in place correctly, not leaking, knock on wood. I don't hear any exhaust ticks or leaks anywhere. We're going to leave that alone. We are going to replace the pesky heater hose and everything along the back. On the front, I'm fairly certain front main seal is leaking just with the amount of oil down at the bottom and the front of the motor. So we're going to replace the O-ring on the oil pump and the front main seal that's behind the crank pulley, along with all three drive belts. So all of that will be fresh and new. Distributor O-ring will be replaced. OEM Toyota cap and rotor will be going on. Depending on the condition of those wires and whether they're OEM or not, I may be replacing those as well. Spark plugs will get replaced. What else do we have here? I think that's it up top. The radiator hoses here and the bottom ones and everything, we'll be replacing those. I'm going to put the proper hose here, or maybe cut this one to the proper length. This is not supposed to go like that. It's supposed to come across here. And let's look down below. Oof, look at all those little drips everywhere. So, Burfield, right there. Oof, God, that looks gross. It's only been parked here for a week and you got all kinds of goop coming down. So, it needs a full front axle rebuild. All the seals, wipers, everything need to be replaced. This side is not as bad, but there is definitely grease coming out. So, we're going to get all the bearings, seals, everything replaced on both sides. And there goes the last piece of the lift kit that he installed, the Old Man Emu steering stabilizer that comes with the J-Lift kit. So he's got the steering stabilizer, all four shocks, springs, caster correction brackets. Like I said, he did all the right things as far as the modifications go. It drives really well. He just really didn't do any of the maintenance, just like most people. If you are most people and you have Land Cruiser, please baseline all of the maintenance before you start modifying them. Let's see. Oh, and last but not least, the snorkel, which I wouldn't have installed if it were me, but it's on here. May keep it, may not keep it. I don't know. That's going to be very last on the list of things to do. If you guys have known me or watched the channel long enough, you know that I get bored of projects and move on to other things often, but I really do like this truck. I may keep it, I may not, we'll see. Time will tell. I gotta get through all this maintenance stuff first. So if you want to see how all this goes and all the step-by-steps on each of these things that needs to be fixed, including the really gross interior that I'm just going to completely remove and clean and then assess as far as what needs to be replaced or fixed. Make sure to subscribe, follow along in my adventures that my wife hates. and you'll get a kick out of all the different things we come across. Love you guys. See you next time.